Hey, this is Steve Papps, founder of Generation Dadbod on Steve Papps Jnr Consulting. If you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Dennis Giannuzzo.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Dennis Giannuzzo.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe that we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today. If we can get the leaders to step up and lead the change, then they can inspire real change. It's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world. So team, today I have on the show with me our guest who is Steve Papps, known as Steve Papps Jnr. He is the founder of Generation Dadbod and Steve Papps Jnr Consulting. In the last 3 years, Steve has coached over 4,000 dads worldwide on how they can live a healthy lifestyle long-term. His core focus is helping clients understand the power of being their own leaders and taking charge of their health and well-being. On the side, Steve works with a number of businesses in the health and fitness industry, where he provides sales and marketing and social media services. So, team, this is a great person to have on the show today, especially with that fast-moving, changing world as we have. Steve, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me, Dennis.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, what I'd like you to do is just first off, is there anything else you want to add to your background? Tell us a little bit more about you and what you do and how it all works.
Yeah, sure. So I've been working in the online space for Generation Dadbod for the last 3 years. And through that journey, it really started back in 2013 when I went through my own journey. And I, before 2013, I actually was one of the top bodybuilders in New Zealand and in Australasia. And from that point, I went through a rough period in 2013 where I packed on 35 kgs. And then it got to a turning point where I realized that I needed to change. I needed to change because my son needed the role model that any other son would want in their own life, and I wasn't showing up as a parent, so I wasn't leading by example. So from that point, I made a promise to him that he would never see his dad in that state ever again. And from that point, I was able to lose 35 kgs in 3.5 months. I was able to change my life completely 360, and then from there, I was able to then later inspire, which is now today over 4,000 dads worldwide to follow suit. So that's a bit about Generation Dadbod. And just on the side as well, I also do consulting work for a number of businesses, mainly in the health and fitness space, just off the backbone of me having an online business for Generation Dadbod.
Yeah, awesome. And when you say 35 kilos, right? Is that what you dropped?
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you do that? And the other thing would be, how did that make a difference to you as a leader in the industry?
Yes. I guess the first thing is that I truly believe that the body will follow where the mind takes it, and that if you don't have certain set of habits, daily behaviors that you put into your schedule, like you do with your own work, you have to turn up to the office at a certain time, then you're simply not going to follow through. You're simply not going to, get the end result. So for me, how it really changed my life is it allowed me to not only inspire my son, but inspired countless people, but it also inspired myself because it showed me that if I can lose a ton of weight in a short frame of time, imagine taking that mindset and applying that same process to any other area of my life, which I did. So it's been very impactful in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So that mindset side of things and losing the weight to help you can actually go into other areas of our life and business and so forth. And that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I, Steve, I know that you've helped me over the last period of time whereby I've actually gone and lost 21 kilos, and it's been really amazing to have that. And thanks for helping me. I mean, it's really helped me change things in my life, but also the energy that I've got and the ability to go out and do things is really quite inspiring and really quite cool to have done and working. So it's really, really cool. So thank you.
No, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Hey, so what the question I've got here is, who is your favorite leader? Now, this person could be alive or it could be someone from history, and why? So who is your favorite leader and why?
I guess that would be Michael Jordan. And it dates back to my high school years where I used to idolize him. And it's just because of his whole being. You know, he's a very passionate person. He's very driven, and he's very laser focused, which I think is what is required of our leaders for today, and going into the next 5 to 10 years is having more clarity, more clear sense of vision, and being able to drive that whole movement towards that vision.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so Michael Jordan, and I think of late on in Netflix and that they've got some series that have come out about him. And that have you been watching that, or is that something you like to go and watch?
Yeah, I've watched all of it, but I've followed him most of my life, so yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, great. And it's just beautiful to see somebody with so much talent and going out there, but also being that inspirational and role model for other people, which is really, really important because, we need these role models in our lives today. And he's one of those which has been of the past, right, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one aspect even in that was, he was saying that I will make sure we win regardless.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And he's always had that high level of standards that he sets, not just for himself, but for everybody. So it's very congruent.
Yeah, so something you just said there, which is about the high level of standard. I mean, I know at times people can be quite hard on ourselves, as individuals, because we've got those standards for ourselves. But how important is that as a leader to have those high level of standards, and what would you do around that space?
Yeah. I believe it's quite important, obviously. I mean, if you're going into high performance or any managerial role, leadership role, it's because people need to see that role model. They need someone to set that bar for them, and then everyone can kind of aspire to that. So, for example, when you come to Generation Dad Bod, people can already see what the standard is. They can expect a level of transformation coming through the program, not just because of myself, but because of thousands of other people who have come before them. So there's a high bar that they're not going into another program. They're actually going into a transformative program where we're setting the bar not just for their health, but into their work life, into their personal life, into their relationships with themselves and also everyone else around them. So, I mean, there was one quote that I heard one time, which is that, how you are in one area is how you are in all areas. So, when you don't set the bar high in one area, you most likely are probably letting the ball slip in other areas of your life.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. I mean, I know that as I'm working with leaders and executives around the world, those who are high performing and out there really making some things happen, I looked around and went, there's not many who are actually overweight. They tend to exercise a lot. They're out there and doing fitness. And then, a lot of people could go, well, where do they find the time? I mean, they're really busy people, but they make that as a priority for them. And I think that's one thing that's really important.
Yeah. And I think it comes also to the why. For example, like, why do people want to be a leader? And everybody has different reasons. My reason is to inspire change. And I guess just having that for all those other areas as well.
Yeah, very good. Hey, so leadership is changing, and we're seeing a change is constant in that. So what is that, when I say that term, what does that mean for you?
I think, given the current circumstances globally, we've been through COVID-19. We've now got this whole global racism talk around America, what's happened recently as well. So I think people are wanting leaders who actually step up to the plate. It's not like before where you can kind of hide behind the covers. Now you've actually got celebrities who are coming out and actually saying, where's our leader? for example, in the States. You got Dwayne Johnson, who publicly posted that on social media. Where is our leader?
Mm.
And in that respect, I think that's what people are wanting, not leaders who just move pieces around, but actually say, no, this is what we're doing. This is the vision. This is how we're going to actually move forward.
Yeah, and if that's lacking, so it's a really interesting point. So what people are looking for, what I'm hearing you saying, is that people are looking for a strong leader to follow, a strong leader that will be standing up front, as you said, stands up to the plate or comes up to the plate and gets ready. They are somebody who's going to take them forward, lead them, have the vision, but also be that person that people will want to grab onto. Now, if that's a void, in other words, if it's missing and people are not being communicated, not giving the messages that they need and that to help them go forward, they'll make it up. Or they'll go and fill that void themselves. And so things here is really important. And so people are asking, actually, they're not even asking, they're screaming out for it right now, I think, and that's what they're looking for, which is really, really important. So, yeah, leadership is changing, and people are saying, hey, we need to change, and we're looking for change, and we are changing. We want the right leaders up front there with us as well.
Definitely.
So, with all this change happening, Steve, how's your business or industry changed, and what demand has that put on you or your team?
I think it's very interesting because the model with the health and fitness space with coaching or personal training, whatever you want to call it, has been very much you come to the gym and you work with a client for an hour or clients for an hour, and then you see them next week or you see them later on in the week. Whereas because the whole industry is evolving. I mean, given even the COVID-19, it's people are wanting more accessibility. So that means in terms of using technology, different forms of technology, and that's the key reason why I went online 3 years ago, is because I could see that coming well ahead and adapted to that change quite fast.
Yeah, so you adapted because you could see that the future is going to go online more, and that's what you did. You did that 3 years ago, and so that period of time where we've gone through COVID-19, and every country's different, right? So they've all had lockdowns, and to a certain extent, it was a little bit different. How has your business grown throughout that period of time?
The COVID-19 has really created more of an awareness around health and just brought that emphasis up a bit more. So it's actually helped in a lot of ways. And also, just even on my consulting side, working with businesses around that, having to actually, in the health and fitness space of gyms, actually working with them to take their services online. Like how do you go from a gym that's operating in a four-wall scenario to now you're online, and you're also having to educate your trainers on how to Zoom, because some trainers haven't ever heard of the word Zoom before. So, all those kind of things, it's just breaking down a lot of barriers. And and again, I've just been fortunate to see quite far ahead back in 3 years ago.
Yeah, awesome. Now, going back, you just mentioned Zoom, and then I think that, that's a tool that a lot of people are now working from home, and they're able to communicate with people around the world, which is fantastic, and have meetings. But what I'm finding with a lot of leaders, and I'm not sure if you've seen this or you've heard of it, but I'm finding leaders that they're getting on calls at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning. They're working away. They're on these Zoom calls. They're doing all sorts of things. Next minute they look up and it's 2 p.m. and they haven't even had lunch. And next minute they look up again and it's 7 p.m. or it's 8 p.m. And they're working some really long hours. Sure, productivity's up, which is great, and it was that side of things, which is good. But what I'm noticing is that they are having problems of actually understanding, I was going to say boundaries, but I was going to talk about transformation, or transition is the word I want, transition between the bedroom, then into the kitchen, into their office, doing what they need to do, then transitioning back throughout the day. Have you had any thoughts? Because I've got some thoughts on it, but I just wanted to see what you think about it as well.
Yeah, I guess it's very interesting. I was talking with a client recently about this, and it was actually his wife. And she's a very busy person. She goes to work. Firstly, drops her kids off to school and then goes to work. She's a nurse, works all the way through. And then afterwards, she has to come back home, obviously, and put on the mum cap. And I said, how do you do it? And she said, I'm just surviving. And I said, the problem is that you're going from, being a parent to being a nurse to being a parent. and you're not taking that time in between to transition into a different hat. And so for her, I said that you need to, before you get home, actually take a 5-minute breather and just really think about how am I going to show up as my best self as a mum when I get through those front doors. And then that's the same for the next day when she wakes up and then drops off the kids, taking that breather before she gets to work. And how can I show up as the best person so I can serve these people as a nurse and really give them the care and service that they need?
Yeah, great. So she's checking in with herself and asking her question, what she can do to serve people better, whether it's the family or whether it's her job, whatever it is. Yeah, and I'm finding that people working from home, the transition, I'm saying to them, go out for a walk in the morning. Go out for, even if it's a 30-minute walk, 20 minutes walk, whatever, but get changed into that clothing that you're going to go for a walk. When you get back, get dressed as if you're going to the office and then do what you need to do. Then go and make sure that you're finishing at the 5 o'clock or what time you would have normally have left the office. Get changed into your sporting gear. Go for another walk. Get some fresh air. Do that. Then come back in. And then that's the transition. Because for most of us, when we are traveling to an office or going to see a client, that is our transition, which is the drive, the bus ride, the ferry ride, whatever it is. That's part of our transition as we're going through. And so for a lot of people working at home right now, they don't have that transition. So we're having to be more focused, more aware of it, as you're saying, and more disciplined in doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also just you can even break up your day with just simply water breaks. And water helps with focus. If you're not getting at least 3 liters of water in the day, firstly, it's going to impact your weight loss. You're not going to actually you're going to actually put on a bit of weight. It also impacts your metabolism in that respect, and also just managing your stress. You can go and later on in the afternoon, if you continue that all the way through, it does impact your productivity over time.
Steve, there was one thing that blew me away when you shared that with me once about the water side of things. I've always known that drinking water was really important to stay hydrated and help us with our brain function and thinking throughout the day. But the thing that blew me away is when you shared this with me was that if I wasn't drinking enough water, I'd be putting on weight. But if I drank more, 3 to 5 liters a day, I would be in a way whereby I would start to lose weight, and I thought, nah. And so when I was doing it, I was just like blown away. So how does that work?
Good question. And there's a chemical process that takes place when you break down fat, and it's called hydrolysis. So the first part, if you actually split the word in two, the first part, hydro, is water, and lysis, the last part, is slice. So when you put that together, it's water slice. So if there's not enough water present in the body, being at least 3 liters of water, that actually takes away the whole old notion of, you need several glasses of water. That's actually, if you actually date back and actually really research further, there's actually no real evidence behind that. Someone just came up with a number because they had to. And that's if you do the research. But 3 liters will actually help. And I've been able to prove this through body scans with myself, with clients. So we've actually got the research to show that if you drop even by half a litre, you will actually lose a few kgs of muscle depending on the person, but you will lose muscle, and you will also put on probably a kg also of fat in that same 24-hour space. So it's very important with to have enough water present in the body.
Yeah, okay, great. So team, I'm here on the show today with Steve Papps Jnr, and he is saying that you need to be drinking enough water. He highly recommends that, to be drinking 3 to 5 liters of water a day, just to make sure that we are staying on our game, not only from a brain functioning hydration perspective, but it also actually helps us lose weight. So make sure you're drinking the water, but I'm sure it's not just the water, because I'm sure there's going to be other things too that works in combination with the water. Exercise and eating well and so forth. So, very good. So, Steve, here's a question for you, and that is, if there was one thing that you could change in business as a leader today, what would it be?
Definitely be leading by example, having more people that will lead by example, being congruent. And I believe that's a big thing for me with all my clients, is that I can't ask them to do something that I'm not willing to do. And I've found that's been a common theme that I've experienced in the past in previous roles before starting my own business, is that, I was looking for that person who would lead by example. And I had to actually create that in a number of roles for myself and just set my own standards. So it's like we were saying before, is that if there's no standards set, you just kind of have to create your own standards and just go into your day with not as much clarity or direction.
Okay, great, good to hear. So how would you re-summarize it in just a few words? What would you do? What would you change again?
So I guess having more people leading by example and being congruent with what they say with their word.
Yeah, there you go. That congruent word is out there, but also being, how are you going to show up? Be the role model, be the person you want to be as a leader. But if you're going to do it, make sure you are doing it. If you're going to talk about it, make sure you are doing it as well. Because as Steve said, you can't expect others to do things if you're not going to do it yourself. So make sure you are out there doing it yourself, and really important to be that role model. So how has employees' expectations changed, or around leaders, their expectations of leaders? Has that changed over time, do you think?
Yeah, I think they want more flexibility and probably more space to be able to voice changes, voice ideas, opinions, and also seeking more support, I think.
Yeah, okay. So being flexible, and maybe that's even now that we're working from home at the moment a bit more, but they want more flexibility. I think they also, maybe the flexibility piece is also whereby they want to be able to fly and be who they are and allow them with their talents to go out and do what they can do very well. And Steve, I've seen over the years whereby I've had somebody in a role in one team that I've seen, and there's been a bit of a performance issue. Things aren't going well. Maybe some personalities with their leader and so forth and peers. You take them out of that team and you put them into another role whereby it's something that they really enjoy. And next minute, it's like it's a different person. They just fly. I don't know. Have you ever seen that happen at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few people who've gone for a role in the past, and then they realise that actually that's not what they expected, and then because they're not, it's not because they don't have capabilities that can actually deliver, but it's because their heart wasn't in it. That they were able to transition them into another side of the business, and then they were able to flourish, like you said.
Yeah, cool. So if their heart's not in it, it's hard to get them to do things. So they're looking for flexibility, as Steve was saying, around that's what the employees' expectations of leaders are today. They want more flexibility, and they just want to be able to be out there and doing what they need to do in a constructive way that's going to help the organisation, the business, and all that move forward. I just look at some things that I mean, I don't know about you, Steve, in your business, but I mean, I can do GST returns and things like that, but that doesn't light my fire. That doesn't get me excited. And I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather give that to somebody who really loves doing that kind of side of things and get them to do it because that does light their fire. That is why they're doing it. So why not tap into that talent?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a really interesting question, which is, what makes a leader successful today in this fast-paced, ever-changing world?
Yeah, I guess it was what I mentioned before, is having that clear vision and being able to communicate that in a way that their team can actually understand what that vision is. Because I've been a part of teams in the past where the leader would say come up with their grand vision, but they weren't able to really communicate that clearly. And I remember a time I was in a huge staff meeting, and the CEO came in and was talking, and we barely even knew who he was. And we'd sit there and we'd just look at each other at the end of it, thinking, "Well, what's the vision again? Is it do we just go back to just working at what we just doing just before this meeting?" And I think that's the biggest thing, is just clarity.
Yeah. So if you're going to communicate something as a leader, one thing that leaders need to do to be successful today is to have, one thing would be clarity, and two would be able to communicate that in a way that others get it. Yeah. And if they actually understand it, then they're going to buy into it.
Definitely, yes. Because we couldn't buy into what we didn't understand.
No. And so then what, I mean, if you didn't understand, I think you said the words before, what do we do? Do we go back to the old way? What do we do? So people get confused. And if they're confused, they're going to revert back to what they know. So that's really interesting that you mentioned that. So, yeah, I think, I'm working with a group of leaders at the moment, and I've said to them that, look, to help people understand what's going on is you've got to actually help people, communicate in a way that you can actually connect with people and help them through things. A good example is, have you ever seen a speaker on stage, or you've seen somebody in a movie and things like that? You've gone, oh, this is really cool, this is really good, and you can connect with that person. Yeah, have you ever experienced that, Steve, where you've seen that kind of person on stage and gone, yeah, I've connected that with person? And do you know what it might have been that's helped you connect with that person?
Yeah, I think it's obviously them being clear, but it's also their energy, their passion. And I think, and I remember hearing that from one of my clients. They were saying, the energy that they get from this group is they're able to connect, because we're all dads and we all understand each other, and we understand the hats that we have to wear each day. So it's getting on that person's level. And I think that's what, great actors do, is they get on your level. They draw you into the character, the scene, and they're able to clearly communicate that through their dialogue, through their body language.
Awesome. Love it. So being able to get on that level with others and be at their level so you can have that communication, being able to sort of put it in a way whereby you can draw people into the story and take them on that journey, and then able to communicate in a way whereby people feel like they are actually sitting in or standing in that journey as well with them. That is an art. That is a real skill to do. And those who do it are the ones who have some big followings as leaders, but the ones who can influence big time.
Yes, and I think also part of it's ego as well. Like you'll see the greatest actors, they don't, when they go into the character, there's no, they've left their name, their title of who they are as a person at the door. And I think that's what I found in the past, is that leaders can kind of carry their egos around, and that creates a disconnection between the people who they are leading, because they're not getting down to that level. And also a bit of there's no vulnerability. For myself, I'm very vulnerable with my clients, and I show them that not everything is the grass looks green on the other side. And I think that's really what we need also is more leaders to be able to show that other side, that human side, instead of just saying I'm this great person, which no one is. We do have our imperfections, and we do have our areas that we need to work on in our life, but being able to say, guys, this is the vision, but this is where I'm at as well, just so you know that I'm not perfect as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting you're saying that, because, as you're saying, leaving it at the door, really important for people to do that. And the vulnerability side of things, being authentic, showing the human side, as you said just then, it's really, really important, because that's where people can relate to you as an individual and as a leader. So really, really cool to hear that. And I think earlier on you were talking about the hat. For those around the world, it's hat or cap, depending where you are around the world. But as we all have different roles that we play, like mum or dad or brother, sister, leader in an organization, business owner, things like that. And we do change that cap throughout the hat throughout the day. And so, but I think what you said earlier on in the show was about showing up and how you show up. And then you just talked about leaving things at the door when those actors are going into those roles. And it's the same thing as a leader. What are you leaving behind as you're stepping into that role as a leader? However, you still need to be authentic. You can't be something that you're not. You have to be still you. And I think that's some really good points that you've made there, Steve. Excellent. So, Steve, I was going to ask you to bring out your crystal ball here and start thinking about the future, because you talked about seeing that the online business for you and around the health side of things and that 3 years ago, and then you sort of adapted your business to that then. Well, where do you see leadership being in 5 years from now?
I think from what I can see now, there's a number of programs that's available where teaching people how they can be their own leaders in respect to, for example, Bob Proctor, he's got his own online business where he's teaching people how to be consultants, coaches, and lead other people. And I think we're going to start seeing that model evolve more over time. And I mean, even myself, I'm going to be actually adopting that model for my own business, because I mean, firstly, with my guys, I'm teaching them to lead by example, lead themselves, and then from there they can actually be congruent with what they're going to coach others from there on in.
Wow, awesome. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining the show today. If our listeners are wanting to get hold of you, where can they go?
You can go to www.generationdadbod.com.
Awesome. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown, the unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. So look out for the episodes as they are published. Please listen, put your review and rating. And if there's any feedback you'd like to give me in relation to the show, just feel free to send me an email, Dennis@leadingchangepartners.com, and we can set up a quick call to have a chat. But if you have a question, because once a week I'm going to have the Ask Dennis session. If there's a question you want to ask me around leadership or anything around change or anything else around anything else that you want to ask, feel free to drop me or send me a message or a private message on social media. So the email again is dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. So listeners, thanks for tuning in today and joining us on the show. Have an awesome time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Dennis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.